Welcome back to the membership show. It's episode 5. We're recording this on Friday, the 25th of the 11th, 2022. We record this at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday. I've got my co-host Spencer. In this episode, we're going to be talking about what are the best SaaS-based membership platforms to use to build your course in 2023. It should be a fascinating discussion. Spence, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure, it's Spence, and now I'm saying from spencerforman.com. That's Forman, and that's a hub where you can see all the rest of the stuff I'm up to.
That's great. Spence got a lot of knowledge. You need to go over there. So let's go straight into it, Spence. So I'm starting with Teachable. Teachable, I would say, is one of the biggest players in this space by user base, I think. I'm just going to give you my thought, and then you can give your thought. I also think, like CRMs and a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about, Spence, you can parcel these solutions into different buckets. And I think I see a lot of people use Teachable, but they also use WordPress. So like their main websites on WordPress, and then they use Teachable as a kind of subsection, a sub website where they have their courses. I see quite a few people doing that. I personally feel there's nothing wrong with it, but I also feel that it hasn't progressed a lot. I think there's better solutions out there. What's your general thoughts about Teachable, Spence?
Well, Teachable has been around the longest, and I just feel like I have to make this sort of statement across the board of all of these. There are some situations where somebody has already grown an audience, or there's some situations where a SaaS platform, like we're going to discuss, actually brings an audience. And that is one of the few compelling things on my list personally. I know you and I discussed differences here as to why somebody might use a platform rather than just using a WordPress solution. In many cases, the audience already existing, sending traffic is almost a guarantee that they're going to get attention. So from that standpoint, Teachable has a promise in their revenue share and so forth that if you put the stuff on there, that it's essentially going to be discoverable, almost like a miniature search engine. But in the old days, that was more of a truth than maybe today, because there's obviously so many different competitors, right? So YouTube is, to many people's eyes, a search engine, and it's a marketing machine. It's also a place you put videos. But in the early days, it was the only game in town. Nowadays, people might put on other social networks and so forth. And so considering what it does and the price, I think it's a solid, it's the granddaddy. It's not really designed to give you sort of fancy features, but if you just want to get up and running for one purpose, great. You know, like put your lessons in there and monetize it. I'm pretty sure that they still take a share of your revenue, though, as part of it.
Yeah, they do. The free plan is outrageous. I think 7%. The next, that's on top of the 2.9% that Stripe or PayPal would take. And then I think the next level up, it goes down a bit, but they still take 5%. I'm pretty sure about that. I think the other thing that you just pointed out that I forgot to point out is what you said about them. They market themselves, that they'll be able to market your course. Because I forgot to point out there's also a subcategory. There's a bit of confusion between what we're going to be talking about and what I call marketplaces like Udemy, Skillshare, and maybe even YouTube, where they're marketplaces. Which can have their use in getting you can put a course on to get exposure, either on YouTube, Skillshare, or Udemy, but they're going to take an enormous cut. Plus, you're not going to build up your email list. But if you just want to get build an audience and build recognition, they still got their place. But you find in a lot of lists online that they mix Udemy and Skillshare as a platform, but where I see it as a marketplace. What do you think about that? Do you think I'm on the right track?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to bring up Udemy, because Udemy is, in a weird way, like the real the old goat of all of this. They're the first one that came out at a time when it was still possible to do things on your own, but they provided everything in one box. And because it costs nothing, essentially, they did a deal with you. You know, they said, we're going to take a piece. We're going to take a piece of your action. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, we're seeing evidence of that even in the WordPress space for people who don't know better or care. So I want to point out that, unlike a lot of things I'll say in this show, I don't feel that that in and of itself is a bad situation. In other words, in exchange for just staying focused on the one thing you need to do, somebody gives you a place where very simply they give you all the tools. They maybe, again, promote you. They take a share of the revenue, blah, blah, blah. And that's all you have to think about. A comparable to that would be something like Mind Body Online for yoga teachers. Now, I think that as we go through this list, however, I'm going to point out the subtle differences, because sometimes the fees and everything else add up to be almost borderline usury, considering what you could do on your own for the same or little effort.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, we feel that you should build this on WordPress, but we agreed, me and Spencer, we would cover other topics and solutions. But so I totally agree with you, Spence. And I've got no problem. You just got to understand what you're getting involved, like Udemy, Skillshare, and obviously YouTube is free, but you can use it to get an audience. When it comes,
I'm saying even on the platforms, though, like even amongst these various competitors, some of them have fee structures that just aren't as competitive as the other ones.
Yeah. But the good things about Udemy and Skillshare is they still have their use, because they take an enormous chunk. As it's a bit like publishing a book. If you go to established publisher, instead of trying to publish yourself, they have costs. They provide an infrastructure to get your book published, but they take a big cut. It's the same with these, but they can be useful, but it does cause a little bit of confusion. Hopefully we've clarified that. We're going to go for a break, where you hear some messages from our major sponsors. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. We're talking about the best SaaS-based platforms for publishing your membership website in 2003. Obviously, we think WordPress is best, but you might look at these solutions as well. Also, I'd like to point out we've got some great special offers from our sponsors. Plus, if you're looking for the best SaaS or WordPress solutions for your membership site, I've got a curated list of all the best offerings for you. You can get all these goodies by going over to WP-Tonic/deals. WP-Tonic/deals, and you find all those recommendations and goodies there. So on we go. Thinkific. I think they started maybe before Teachable, or maybe before. They don't. The good thing is they don't charge this 7 or 5% malarkey at their free or their lowest paid offering. When it comes to interface design, I think it's a bit more rougher than Teachable. And I think I see a lot of people, if they just want to, I see a lot of people that got a Facebook page, website, and they use Thinkific for one course, which puzzles me in some ways. I think, why don't you use something like Lift It LMS or Learnable on your website? But there's quite a few people. And also you don't get the email functionality at all, and you don't get that with Teachable. You have to use a third-party solution. What's your thoughts about Thinkific?
I mean, it's kind of along the same lines. I mean, if you have something that you are going to sell and you feel that it's got a product market fit, they're not holding your hands or anything in terms of giving you an audience, but they do give you sort of a tool set that if you like the interface, it's competitively priced. I mean, it starts with free, which is again a rev share and a limited amount of set, and then it works its way up to on a monthly $199 a month. I think they also have this thing called Plus, which is a, you know, if you
Yeah, they
need like an
got.
enterprise level.
When I looked, it was 49 for the basic. Start was 99, and growth was 199.
Yeah, but I want to point out something that I think is sort of informational as well. It's sort of low key, but I don't find it appropriate. Even if you're at the $99 a month, it's still branded as Thinkific. Okay, you have to pay $199 actually a month to remove the branding, and I just do the math, folks. Like that's $2,400 a month. Now, you could right now go on Fiverr.
A year, I think you mean.
Sorry, $2,400 a year to put your content into somebody else's Gilded Cage. For $2,400 a year, you could hire a freelancer and have them essentially work for you every month to do exactly the same thing. And I'm not saying we're not talking about this or we said WordPress. I'm saying these are the things that one should think about when you're using any of these platform solutions. Like, okay, what am I getting at a certain price point, and then compare it to hiring somebody to just use the open source tools for me or one of the other platforms. And I think that's a high bar to remove branding, in my opinion. You know, $199 a month.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I think you're totally spot on. On to the next one, Mighty Networks. I included Mighty Networks, Spence. I consider it a totally different beast because it's linked to one of our previous shows, which are about building community. But when you go online and you start doing some searches, it's in these lists. I think it has. I understand why they put it in these lists, but I don't think you should consider it unless you're considering building a community website, which we've discussed in a previous episode. What's your thoughts about Mighty Networks?
For those of you who missed the previous episode, in a previous episode, Spencer Foreman revealed how he went at it with the CEO of Mighty Networks in a previous lifetime. Mighty Networks is what I will call the legacy of Ning, with N-I-N-G. Gina Bianchini is the CEO. She's a very capable CEO. I can't fault her at all. But the basic premise of this, as you've rightly pointed out, is the legacy of this thing they've been trying to do for, well, since 2006-ish, 5-ish. That is a social network for anything. And now in a world of Facebook and so forth, we're seeing a resurgence of that. But as the features you're talking about carry over to, okay, can I put a course on? Yeah, you can. But same stuff I've always say. A, Gilded Cage. B, price point on this, still, again, like we just said, $99, still not white labeled. It's still Mighty Networks. You have to go up to the, learn more level to figure out how to remove their branding. Think about that, folks. You're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into a business. You could own it, control it. You could have somebody do it, but you have to pay at a level that they have to have a meeting with you first to talk about to remove Mighty Networks from the branding. And furthermore, I don't know if this really would be something I would suggest, because remember, I'm a stay in your lane guy. Okay, if you're doing a course, okay, running a course is a top-down, one-directional publishing model, right? It's like writing a book and it gets published. A social network is running a camp for kids ages 4 to 8 and all that goes along with it. And having a social network is not something a book publisher wants to do. I'm thinking Stephen King running a day camp for kids. Like, never was that going to ever exist. So I don't think this would be a tool that I would choose for the price point, especially for those reasons. My personal things aside, I also feel anybody who is running a social network, there are other compelling new versions like Circle. If you really must have a platform for a social network versus BuddyBoss, Circle is a more compelling product, in my opinion. This Mighty Networks is an old dog with new tricks.
Yeah, I just included because it's included in all these searches
I get
that
it.
you know. But if you're not looking to build a community, if you're just looking to get your courses up, I definitely wouldn't look at Mighty Network because of the overhead, because it's really focused, or they market it focused at building communities, and that's a lot of extra work. So it's not, in my opinion, the right tool for the right job. So on to the next one. I included this talent LMS because there's also a subcategory, folks, but you find this also listed if you do a lot of searches. It is more focused at what I would call the internal training market of a company. But if you're selling courses, paid courses, you can use Talent LMS. But I would say its focus is really more focused if you're working for a company or organization and you don't want to look at WordPress and you're looking for a solution to build an internal training platform. What's your thoughts about Talent LMS, Spencer?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you on that. The end customer, it's hard to say because I don't really know. They have solutions here. I was looking to see if they had some examples, but if you go by industry, I think they kind of hint as to where they're going with this, right? You're in manufacturing, healthcare, software, consulting, and so forth. I think what they're looking for is something that would be training either your corporate employees or the employees of your customers. And so I can't fault them for their pricing, but this pricing also seems to me to reflect not the type of people that are doing a onesie twosie kind of a course.
No.
This isn't, put on your big girl and boy pants level, but it's pretty much getting into that range where they literally, and I appreciate this, list out the pricing where on the front, it takes some big ones to say $459 a month on consumer-facing product.
I've used it because of some clients we've had, and it's a pretty good interface, and it's a kind of professional level tool. But some of the other ones that we're going to be talking about, they're around the same price, but it comes from a slightly different background, a different focus. It's what Spencer said, it's really focused at the professional market. I'm not saying that the others are professional. I'm struggling for the right wording, but hopefully you're getting the drift. We're going to go for our break. We will be back in a few moments.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
We're coming back. I just want to point out, if you're looking to utilize WordPress for your membership website, have a look at what WP-Tonic has to offer. We provide great hosting. We provide a great list of plugins, professional level plugins as part of our hosting plan. Plus, we provide all the email functionality. We set it up for you initially. We just make it so much easier to utilize WordPress for your membership solution. So go over to WP-Tonic and have a look at what we've got to offer. So let's go on. Let's go to something that's totally different to Talent LMS in its history. That's Kartra. You could go from one extreme to the other, really, because Kartra, it comes from marketing automation, marketing background, really.
It's a sales funnel tool, basically.
Which got a bit lost. They tried to pitch it to agencies as a one white label agency tool. That didn't really work out for them. So then they pivoted and positioned themselves as a tool, as a competitor to Kajabi, really. What's your thoughts around Kartra? Do you agree with do you initially agree what I outlined?
Yeah, I mean, we can cover all the points that I would use as a checklist, right? So, number one, why are you wanting to use this? What's your primary motive? I would say that many, as you rightly pointed out, many of the historical reasons that people would come to this would be it's a ClickFunnels, Kajabi, something sales funnel alternative, right? The fact is that you can sell people courses as the content that they're buying, right? So in other words, like, it was nice that this was one of the earliest success stories of a standalone platform where you can actually take the money, do the sales funnel, upsell, downsell, and deliver. But times change, phones change, technology changes, online streaming video changes. Like nowadays, I bought a 75-inch 4K TV for $500 that was delivered to my doorstep the next morning, that weighs 26 pounds. It covers the whole wall and has a remote control that lets me connect to anything that's ever been created anywhere content-wise. Now, 5 years ago, that would be a miracle, and cost me probably a kidney. So I think the problem is they, as you rightly pointed out, now had to throw in kitchen sink type things in order to keep people there and or to attract new people. But I think that's a state of diminishing returns. The more these platforms try to throw stuff in, the more they dilute what their primary thing is. It's literally like, name the thing that somebody's known for, right? Oh, she was in that movie, right? Well, if she's in 47 bad movies, then you're like, oh, I don't remember what was good about her as a movie actress. Well, same thing here. Like, what is Kartra good for? It's not the price. It's not really their features are great. It's just that they kind of have the whole kitchen sink, and if they find somebody, then they can catch them before they figure out there's other competition.
They are, and don't get me wrong, listeners and viewers, they are highly promoted by YouTube influencers, and I'm not just picking on them. And I've got nothing wrong with it, as long as you understand they offer very attractive affiliate packages to influencers. And it, like, what I totally agree with what Spencer outlined. They have become. Sorry, Spencer, was you going to say something?
Kartra, ClickFunnels, Kajabi, the holy trinity of like SaaS services that exist from a previous generation that still exist today that are essentially doing the same stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I've got nothing. I just think there's better solutions. There's better solutions on this list than what Kartra. If you want what they're offering and where they come from, there will be better solutions that we're going through. Honestly, I
don't even know if just to throw one other thing, I don't even know if courses is a thing. I mean, it's got surveys and quizzes and memberships and videos, but courses is not actually one of the features.
If you're serious, you're totally right. If you're looking to do courses seriously, I would not use this platform.
LMS sort of implies, courses, I think.
It does. But they're from a marketing automation bank. They got a bit lost and it wasn't working out for them. This is my outlook. And they hitched their wagon to membership again because they were a bit lost. Onto another strain. Well, I'm going to leave Spencer's outline. Access Ally. I never pronounce it correctly, but I don't think Spencer knows how to. Access Ally. It's a WordPress plugin, but it's an all-in-one solution. How would you classify Access Ally? How would you pronounce it to start off with? Because I get it wrong, don't I?
I go with Access Ally.
Right, Ally, right, Access Ally.
But it's
So
it's a we used to, well, we had the pleasure of having Nathalie on the show a couple times.
she's a lovely lady.
She's really a great person and everything else. But these bones of contentions haven't held her back. But at the same time, we've already been very clear about things that in a time machine would have been nice to have done differently, but that hasn't stopped her success. So good for her. You know, I mean, like everybody, if somebody doesn't tell you you're wrong, you're really not doing something well. So she's really doing something well, and us saying it's wrong for this and that really just sort of props up the fact she must be doing something really right.
Yeah,
but it's not for everybody, because the consumer and the end users who I care about on these shows, and I want people to understand, look, there's cars that had an engine in the middle, cars in the engine in the front, cars with no engine. You need to know what's going to happen when you get in that Porsche with a mid-engine on a slippery road if you're not a race car driver, you know, and that's what's going on with some of these platform tools. Like
I just think I need to quickly give some background here. I think when Nathalie and her husband got into this business, and she's been highly successful in other online businesses, you couldn't do marketing automation that easily on WordPress. There weren't any solutions like Fluent CRM, which is the one that we highly recommend and use. There just wasn't marketing automation. There wasn't an easy way of automating membership. There was a lot of kind of sticky tape. You take this solution, you take that solution, you hire a developer, boom, boom, boom. It was a totally different world when Access Ally started, and they coded an all-in-one solution. The world has changed. It's moved on. Do you think that's a good summary?
Well, I mean, it's no secret that she was essentially right at the cusp when Infusionsoft, Clayton Mask, was becoming or became Keep. And now we've learned how that episode 6 of the Clayton Mask drama is that he revealed now after the fact as a mea culpa, well, the equity guys made me screw up this whole company. But by the time he was done with the being screwed up, about 55 other companies came along that are in the same space. Well, Access Ally came into that moment where theoretically, I am of the opinion they were bridging the gap between what Infusionsoft was and what WordPress could do. But they made a deal with their own devil on that one by saying, well, we're going to build this very special set of rules where you drive your car upside down on the wrong side of the road on Tuesdays only. And as a result, by committing to that, they built a framework and a plugin, just like Membarium in some ways, like Infused Woo in some ways, all these like old-fashioned bridges between what was the market leader at the time, Infusionsoft, and WordPress. Then Jack Arturo at WP Fusion and subsequently a couple other players like Fluent CRM come along, and they just rewrite the book like, we're doing this the right way. We're doing this lightweight, and we're not going to put everything under the sun into this one framework, which is also unique because that's where the conversation of like WP Fusion connects X number of hundreds of plugins and manages the user's journey there with whatever CRM you want versus you got to use Infusionsoft. And now I think they have Active Campaign for the last year or two. But the point is, like, these two CRMs have to be baked into your whole setup in a certain particular way, which again, go back to the bottom line. There's other membership plugins and themes that I won't mention here that are well known for newbies in the WordPress space by really talented people, but they're selling a tricycle to people who probably would be better if they were sold a proper 2-wheel bike with training wheels and somebody who knows how to teach them. Because the problem is always you make that deal when you don't know, and then you're stuck with a tricycle riding off to your first date in high school. And not so
good. Well put. On to another one. I'm going to struggle pronouncing it. Spencer will put me right. He's used to my inability to pronounce almost anything.
Which one?
New Xenia.
Your guess is good as mine. New Zenler, I'm going to guess.
Yeah. Why do they choose names that are unpronounceable, Spencer?
I mean, Zenler, I have a rule that I've taught entrepreneurs and freelancers. Easy to say, easy to spell, easy to remember. Now, Zenler doesn't bother my English sensibilities, but it's one of those names that means nothing, I don't think, unless it's some language that I'm not sure of. So it's easy to spell, it's easy to say once you know it. I can't fault them in the same way. It's not an ally problem, but it just doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't conjure an image up.
Roger.
But say la vie. It's good for
it's a kind of quasi new player. I think it's from some people that work at Kajabi. I'm not too sure. It's just coming from my memory bank. It's really aimed at Kajabi, though.
I mean, you caught me off surprise with this. This is one of those rare instances I never heard of this. It has 222 reviews on Trustpilot, though, so clearly it's been around.
Well,
right?
they had a version 1, and then they had to do a version 2. They upped their game. It doesn't do anything, in my opinion. It's got a slightly more modern interface than Kajabi. It's not bad, folks, but it's not the cheap. It's really aimed. If you're frustrated with Kajabi, there's a lot of people that knew this. They were also doing a lot of heavy discounting and getting a number of influencers to plug it. It's not a bad product, but I think there's some better solutions on this list, basically.
I have to defer to you on this one because there's two things that I will tell you, not knowing what this product is, strike me as interesting. I don't say judgmentally. Number one, unless there's something wrong with my web browser, I have no information about who's in charge of this, who's behind it.
No, there isn't.
It just literally says pricing and login. And number two, again, if it's the new Zenler, what happened to the old Zenler? I'd like to find out. Where's the about us, our story, how we got here? What is it supposed to do? I get the features, but I don't really get a clear sense. And that always raises my red flags, right? I mean, to be fair, not everybody has to tell their entire origin story. But if you're a company this is not cheap. I mean, if you're charging hundreds of dollars a month or $647 a year or whatever, I think you owe it to people to explain like where you've been. This is $1,447 a year or $197 a month. That's not small peanuts. Might like to know who's in charge, who's running the ship, in my opinion. But I don't know anything else about the features.
Well, they're good points. I totally agree with you. We've got a much more happier show than last week, haven't we? We agree that you see. I'm not irritating you this week. So on to the next.
I'm doing my own 12-step Jonathan program for our abusive.
You got so peeved off with me last week. I thought you were going to explode.
I decided I have one of those. I have one of those stress balls I'm clenching under the table. That's
my ability to wind up people is legendary. I don't see it myself, but that's me. Kajabi. Let's go on to one of the big gorillas, Kajabi. What can you say about Kajabi? It's a really slick platform. It's pricey. The founders really knew what they were doing. They did a fantastic job of marketing it, but there's been some problems on building the business, but the two founders, they knew how to market. It has established itself like a lot of these other players. I don't think it's the best. I think there's a couple others that we're going to be talking about that are better, depending on what you're looking to do. What's your own thoughts about Kajabi, Spencer?
Well, first of all, my origin story around Kajabi is that I was a huge fan of Andy Jenkins, who in my mind was one of the most clever and creative and fun to watch marketers ever. Unfortunately, he's a bit of a wildcat and part of the California digital marketer mafia. So his lifestyle or something caught up with him and he passed away early. He was, I think it was only like 4 or 5 years ago, but like he was much too young to pass away because he was younger than me. And his partner, Phil, I want to say it's Falsami, but I think he carries on as the head of this. The product itself was an early days solution alternative to using Infusionsoft, using Salesforce, using, HubSpot. And with Andy's marketing in the early days, I mean, it was really exciting because he would make these videos that I emulated and still do to this day to some extent, where he would use Keynote, and it was just like his great voice. And it's like my whole evil genius persona came out of watching Andy Jenkins. So I couldn't agree more that as a product and the origin story and where it came from, like, they're very clear. You can go and see in the footer, like, about us, where we came from, all the stories of who's doing what. It is not really a membership product. It is real. I mean, like an LMS product. It is a sales funnel marketing platform. And that is 100% true. So again, going back to even their current feature set, it has online courses, coaching, podcasts, memberships, community. That's fair to say. But I'm not saying that I would choose this first and foremost for all the reasons we just discussed, which is it's $200 a month to start, and you get this many products, 15 products, 15 funnels, this many contacts, but it's all in one box. So, but I'm just here to claim, as we've talked about before, $2,400 will get you really, really far with a box of stuff that, you know, I've talked about a million times and we'll continue to talk about in the future on WordPress. So,
yeah, it's slick. It's got a good interface, support. They won't build anything out for you. My only problem is with some of their marketing propaganda they make. It's literally like they give the impression that you sign up for an account and the course will be built like out of a genie. It will be set up for you because you bought it. Nothing more could be the truth. You still got to get you still got to work in it. I
want to comment on that because that's true. Right. But I want to use I'll give them the benefit of this. When you compare the direction of their competitor at the time, ClickFunnels, with Russell Brunson. Okay.
Oh, God.
Here's how I see it. When Andy Jenkins was at the helm, ClickFunnels and like Russell and ClickFunnels, and I believe they overlapped for a couple of years, and Andy Jenkins, like they were going head to head, like sales funnel. Look, and ClickFunnels has built a reasonable product, not amazing. They're selling. Look at all the people who've made millions of dollars and gotten their record. Okay, so they're selling Herbalife around Russell's marketing expertise and enthusiasm, and it's absolutely true. Like Russell's marketing skills are unparalleled, but the software, the service, the support that they're giving you isn't really what you're buying. You're buying because you saw somebody with a gold record, and I can basically do that with my idea, which is also true, but there's a big gap between the skills of those people who built their businesses with a product market fit and what the software does for you, because there is no person here to make this happen. Kajabi, to their credit, has actually changed direction away from gold records, and look what Bob and Susie did and how they made $1 million. And it's about the product. But what they've done is essentially made it more of a competition to like a HubSpot or to something that is a marketing tool and a platform. So I give them credit for that. Honestly, for me, I just like, I mean, I didn't even know they're alive or dead. I still reference them, but it's just one of several products now in a category of like, there's no more. I mean, listen, to his credit, Russell drives everybody crazy, but in a good way. He's constantly reinventing things. And I just can't say he's not a genius about that. You know,
he's an evil genius.
Listen, you have to be controversial in the space with your product or service. So some of these products and services, like I said, it would be better to be the one thing that everybody thinks is, holy cow, what's all that about? Like the Sponge Daddy or something, than to be a room full of boring square sponges.
Well, it must be good. It must be good news for me because I'm slightly controversial in WordPress, am I? So there we go. So on to the next one. He's smiling. On to the next one.
I'll drink tea to that.
Oh, bloody right. Podia. I really like Podia, actually. I'm committed to WordPress, but of these SaaS solutions, I think for what you're getting, value-wise, for what they provide, I think they have positioned themselves as a value alternative to Kajabi and Kartra, with a little bit more, and with also as a little bit better solution than what Teachable or Thinkific is. So they're kind of offering something. Well, you get what Kajabi and maybe Kartra, plus we're more focused on courses rather than the marketing automation, but you still get this Swiss Army knife. And they produce a lot of really good educational stuff, don't they? What do you think of them?
This is the soda pop or the cereal aisle at the supermarket. Solid platform. Pricing starts at free, moves up very reasonably. I mean, I appreciate the fact, okay, great. 0 to start, 33 is the next level, which, by the way, even at that level, you've got unlimited courses, theoretically, no transaction fees. That's reasonable. And then it moves up to like all of them. I mean, they have actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have at least 4, maybe more levels. So you end up paying like somewhere between free and $200 a month, which, by the way, it'd be a nice point to bookmark in our conversation. If you're running a business and you're selling courses, let's just be fair. You should plan on spending at least $200 a month. I would say you should plan on $300 or more a month just to run the business. So when you're talking about what you're going to sell, of course, there's going to be a moment of time when you're in a loss leader position, but then eventually you're going to get something where the traffic and the recurring revenue, if you have that, or the volume of sales catches up. So even at a $37 workshop price, okay, you need to sell like 10 of those a month to basically get ahead of the game. If you don't have that in your head, I just think you're setting yourself up for failure. Like buying a car that's a gas car and having 0 left in your budget for gas, oil, and maintenance. You're just not going to get very far. So I like them for that, but it just reminds me of like in American supermarkets, like endless rows of soda pop or cereal boxes. Like, which one? I don't know. They all basically have sugar and they have, good cartoons on the front of the box. So try it out.
Yeah, they're not offering anything revolutionary, but I don't think there's anything revolutionary in this sector. But I like the leadership, and I like how they run the business, and I think the pricing is more reasonable, more transparent.
It's very, very solid and fair. I like how their FAQs are very transparent about the fees, changing plans. Like no red flags here whatsoever. None. This is a nice low sugar brand cereal, fun for the kids just enough, healthy enough for me to eat on some days. So you can't go wrong here. And they do offer refunds. I think they said the free plan, try for a spin, you get 72 hours after a renewal to get like, oh, I didn't remember I had this thing, which I think is totally normal in today's world. So yeah, I love that for them. That would make me feel good about saying, sure, give it a try.
And I'm ending Podia, and the one that I've ending with, or we're ending with, is Learn Worlds. I think if you of this list, if you're committed not to look at WordPress, and you should give it another look, if you're committed not to, I would either look at Podia or Learn Worlds. But Learn Worlds is a very different animal to Podia because in some ways it's focused at Talent NMS. It's more of a professional tool, but it's got a really good which Talent NMS hasn't. It's got a really good website builder. You can build a whole website using Learn Worlds, and it's got all the kind of professional course building tools in it. It doesn't provide the email marketing automation. It does provide integration, but you're going to have to look at something like at MailChimp or don't use MailChimp, or use Campaign Monitor. But for what you get for the price, it's a strong player in my opinion. I don't know if you've looked at Learn Worlds, or what do you reckon?
I mean, I'll admit this is another one that slipped past my radar. I had no reason to see it, but now that I've browsed their site, I mean, I can tell you some things that pop up. It seems to me, first of all, their orientation, even though they're starters and all the rest, They have fees on this low end, right? So starter, it's, if you go monthly, $29 a month, $5 a fee per course sale. I don't know if that's good, bad, or otherwise, but most people doing like a $20-something course, and then you get 2.9%. By the time you're done, they take $5. That's more than the 2.9%.
Yeah, but in fairness, the reason why I put it is, if you're looking at the beginning, I would start with Podia.
Like all that stuff you said, I agree with, but I'm just looking through the comparative and the features. And one of the things that just strikes me, it seems that really they're pushing folks up to, if you look at and this is interesting, I believe, have to go into annual mode, yearly payment. When you do that, it seems that there's a branded app option at the equivalent of $378.30 a month billed annually. So I have to do my quick calculator, but that seems like around $5,000-ish. But the point is, like, that is something that has come up as a recent conversation point. And I want to bring this out in fairness, not to stick a thumb in their eye. That would be one of the things that would be why should I deal with these folks kind of things? Because even though Buddy Boss is not really a coursework thing, I have clients in the WordPress space that if you're using Buddy Boss and you use their app feature and you've got that kind of money laying around, then you get an app. But I also had a good conversation with the gentleman, Pietro, who runs a business that we might be doing some business with, who their job is to take any WordPress type site or otherwise and turn it into an app. Because for certain companies, I don't really understand why that still is compelling, but here's the basic motivations. Even though the WordPress websites are all HTML5 compatible and mobile friendly and they can look like whatever, some companies, there's a decision maker who says, I just have to have a button that you click on an iPhone or an Android that comes from downloading at the iPhone store or the Android store. And for that, they want to have basically a consolidation of what's the WordPress, stuff into an app. That's kind of something interesting here. What they're offering is, if you have one of those companies that's like, well, I'm not going to be on WordPress, I can spend the dough and get an app. That now it's like, that's interesting, because it is a different experience for some segment of users. I don't agree with it, but it is true that it happens. Like there's.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there. Yeah, I was going more about. Thanks for pointing it out. My focus was about the professional tools they provide in the interface, because I have worked with a couple of clients with it, and it's not bad. But I would not. I think if you're committed not to look at WordPress and you're looking for the next level up around a really major business around e-learning, it kind of puts Podia up on the next level. But if I was starting out and I was committed not to utilize WordPress, I would, of everything we've looked at, I would look at Podia. But that's just my.
I mean, I given that I haven't used the interface, I can't fairly, say anything about the interface. But you made a point, which made me a little cringy when you said it. But I don't know, you referenced for automation, like using Constant Contact or some oddball thing.
No, it was worse than that. I think it was MailChimp.
No, after MailChimp, your next step was like some other
campaign.
dinosaur from the Pleistocene era or something. But the point is, I don't believe this has marketing automation. So if you compare it at the price point, even to a Kajabi or Kartra or one of those things, like you're just out of your mind if you're paying for a platform.
It's taking you 4 years to realize I'm taking.
I mean, seriously, you're just out of your mind if you're doing a cost analysis, a benefit, a feature analysis, and you're looking at like, okay, we're going to lay out $400 a month, call it, right? I mean, it's $4,800 a year. Plus somebody who has to be experienced in this interface. In WordPress, there's about 100 jillion people, I think, that know how to use WordPress all over the world, right? You have to have somebody that's like really good at this tool. Now, recently there was a sale of Figma to Adobe, and it caused such an outrage or uproar because it was like for over $1 billion, I believe, because it was a beloved tool by so many interface designers. Now, if you've got a specialty thing like Learn Worlds, good luck going on Fiverr or wherever, say, hey, I need a learn word specialist to help my company build this thing. Because you're going to find like 0 people. Whereas if you
but
say,
they definitely don't charge Fiverr.
but I'm saying, compare that to, I'm spending $500 a month and I've basically got a lunch kit or whatever put together of WordPress. I need somebody who's good using Gutenberg blocks and some, a page builder on WordPress. Anybody there? And it's like your mailbox would be overflowing with people around the world. So I think you got to think of what are you really buying and spending money on? And that's where this compelling argument kind of dilutes of using an expensive feature set. Maybe for the starter, sure. But once you get into like real money, I don't know.
That's a good point. So just to finish off, of everything we've talked about, if you had somebody that's committed not to look at WordPress, of everything we've looked at, which one or two would you choose?
Ask me the question again. Of all these lists of things, which one?
Yeah, all the ones we've discussed in this show, you had somebody that was committed not to look at WordPress. Is there one or two of these that you say look at?
I mean, in all fairness to what we've talked about, you can't ignore Teachable and Podia, because I think those provide your starting points, long-term stability, like well-known name. There might be people that already are talented enough to work with those interfaces. My overarching response, of course, as you know, and today, since we're both more mellow, it won't get a response, is that I don't think it's possible, even though we're covering this topic in the show, for you to just simply ignore the consideration of what's available in WordPress, because
I totally agree.
Legitimately, in all of these shows, when we break it down to WordPress as a platform with a limited set of features, I can always just stick in, here's a TV dinner, a lunch kit or something made of WordPress that beats all of these on every level. The problem with WordPress is just knowing what that should be. But that's a problem that I feel is easily solved for those who I have reach or contact with. So I would say, if you're going with a platform, remember, you're buying a tricycle. You're going to be locked into that cage for a long time with your decision. So if you think you're not going to need more than that, it's actually okay. Again, staying with the low end price plans. Hey, listen, whatever. I threw out a new course. I put it up to $39 a month. It cost me, and it made me $300. Fine. Put one on each of these platforms and call it a day, because you just only needed a tricycle for one course. But if you really think it's part of a bigger business or something you need in the future, you want that audience to come through a central sales funnel and marketing, think hard about buying the tricycle versus buying a bicycle with training wheels and getting somebody to do that on WordPress.
Thanks for that, Spence. Great point. So, Spencer, going to wrap up the show. What's the best way for people to find out more about you and your thoughts and your great knowledge?
My primary hub is at spencerforeman.com. You can find me on Twitter at Spencer Foreman, LinkedIn at Spencer Foreman. I've really been working lately to consolidate my multiple. I have 4 points of reference in consulting and software and training and other solutions. But really this year, I'm focused on the thing I started, what we talked about years ago, and almost 2 years ago. 16 years total, but the last 2 years, WordPress finally has the tools it needs. So what I'm doing is putting together WordPress as a platform solution for people that want to do something like this. And it means getting rid of all the pain points that are traditionally involved in a tinkering system. And I know you do the same thing, but we do it slightly different, because what I'm doing is more very limited feature sets for people might be considering one of these low-end platform things, and they just want to jump into it. So check out spencerforeman.com, where it's like a hub of all this stuff.
That's great. We will be back next week with another great subject to make you successful with your membership website. Give us some feedback. Subscribe on iTunes. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. Give us some feedback. We would be very appreciative, me and Spencer. Like I say, we'll be back at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. You can join us live on YouTube or the Facebook group, and you can give us any questions and we would answer them after the show. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye. All right, I think we'll end it now. We'll go off. Got no questions. They're all recovering from their turkey